ụlọ nsọ gị Chukwu ka ị na-abata, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Anya bịawa ịsọpụrụ gị ugbu a, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Chukwu nna n'ụlọ gị ka ị na-akpọ gị, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Otito na-adịrị gị mgbe niile, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya.
Otito niile dịrị Chineke, ọbasi dị elu, Chukwu obi ọma, Chidi ebere, Olisa nwa amara. Ka ụzọ anyị niile ọbụla bụrụ ihe, ka ihe niile anyị kpatara aka bụrụ sọ mma, ka ụwa niile site n'ozi ọma anyị a mụsa obi aṅụrị taa na ebighị ebi ọfọ ya gazie ise o. All praises to Chi, the creator, the supreme being, Chi the good, Chi the merciful, Chi the magnificent with grace. Let every way of our lives be light. Let all our acts be crowned with good. And may the word prosper from our ministry, now and forever. So let it be. Amen. Before we get into it today, I'd like to show you a video about our topic today, which is identity. My name is Divya Otraja. With him is welcome on your. I'm the co-host of Chasm Live. Okay, Divya. Our host is not available today because she's a little bit under the weather. So we keep her in the prayers and hope that she recovers pretty soon from, the cold, the weather, allergies, those kinds of things, making it a little difficult to be able to speak. So that's why she's not on camera today. But trust me, she is behind the scenes, pulling the strings and making sure that the show continues, that we're not off air today just because she's not, she's a little bit under the weather. So here is yours truly trying to navigate us through the show. Again, I'd like to show you a video about identity. So if you don't mind, can you load the video, please? We're waiting on it. It'll be coming on very soon. Okay, having a little problem with that video right now.
It's so tempting.
There we go.
To try to fit into molds created by others. And you wonder where you fit in. But true fulfillment often comes from embracing our own identities. Not trying to be what we're not trying to be what we're not supposed to be. When you accept and celebrate who you are, you stop being like a chameleon, trying to find where you fit in, what will make you more fulfilled in life, by trying to be something that you're not. When you accept and celebrate who you are, your culture, your traditions, and your unique qualities, it radiates confidence. It really does. That authenticity can draw people to you naturally as they appreciate the genuine connection that they have with you. It's a reminder that everyone's journey is different. See, what works for one person may not work for another. It's important to find comfort in your own skin that will lead you to a more meaningful relationships and a deeper sense of belonging. You're exactly who you're supposed to be. The important thing, however, is that you know it and you be it. You're good enough.
Now that's deep, and there's a lot to infer or glean from that video. Identity is very important. You have to know yourself. But first of all, what is identity? What is that? What do we mean by that? When people talk about, identity, what are we talking about? Well, identity is a set of qualities, beliefs, and personality traits, appearance or expressions that characterize a person or a group of people. What they like, their history. Those are sort of things. There's so many examples of what do you call it? Identity. So I'm just going to give you a few of them and see, or at least to give you an understanding of exactly what we're talking about. Again, identity are characteristics that you believe in, that defines an individual. This includes characteristics of yourself, a group of people, membership, social groups, so on and so forth. Now, here are some examples of identity. Individualism, the belief that you as an individual, or should I say as a person, okay, you have your own qualities as opposed to having the quality of somebody else. You're an individual, you're a person. It's the belief that you are an independent person who is defined by your own qualities as opposed to your membership in any group or groups. Okay, individuals tend to identify with other individuals with aspects of society and culture that are individualistic. They're not really into group stuff. It's just about them and that's it. Okay, another example of identity is our family. Your immediate and extended family is part of your identity. Your friends, okay, your friends and your social circle, they're all part of your identity. Language, language is the foundation of thinking, and it's an extremely pervasive element of identity. I mean, I'm Igbo, and we're all, people of this hue, we're all of African ancestry. But I identify myself as an Igbo person, not just because of some of the cultural, aspects of this identity, but the fact that I speak the same language that I don't speak with the Yoruba, I don't speak with the Zulu, I don't speak with the Ashanti, I don't speak with the Senegalese or the Jamaican. I speak Igbo, and we have a group of people, millions of people that speak Igbo. So the language identifies me. It's the foundation of thinking, and it's an important element, very important element, one of the most important elements of identity. This may not be obvious when you are surrounded by your native language, because it's apparent that you're immersed in, a foreign language. So an example, for example, is you go to on vacation to Tokyo, but you don't speak Japanese. You may suddenly strongly identify with anyone who could speak English. All of a sudden, if they could speak English and you're a European and you go in there and you can't speak Japanese, and then you see somebody from Africa who speaks Japanese and speak English, all of a sudden you identify with that person because of language, even though you understand. So I could be in Japan and I don't understand Japanese, and I'll be looking for somebody who speaks Japanese, and I happen to see a guy from England who also speaks Igbo, just like me. All of a sudden, I identify with the English guy who speaks Igbo. Language now becomes a common identity between me and that person. That's how language works. Then philosophy, identifying with a way of thinking about the universe, such as being pragmatic, pragmatism. And you find people that think the same way as you do, that have the same kind of philosophy. You identify with those people. Then personality, elements of your personality, okay, that you feel define you or give you things in common with other people. An example would be an optimist who identifies with other optimists. Somebody who's a traditionalist like me, that identify with somebody else who's also a traditionalist. Even though they're not a traditionalist that proclaim or push my own traditions, they push their own. But our philosophy, our way of looking at things is the same way. We're traditionalists. So he may come from Scotland and he's a traditionalist with Scottish culture, the dance and all that stuff they do with the skirts and all that, throwing the hammer, the tree throwing, all that, Scottish traditions, pagan religions, Halloween, all that stuff. Yeah, why not? Religion. That's another aspect of identity. On a global basis, around 86% of the world population belong to some kind of religion. I will get back to the religion thing, hopefully I'll have time to do that or remember to go back to religion. I'm going to make a note of it and just write religion so that hopefully I could get back to it. But let's continue. Other aspects of identity, race, the perception that there are groups that have related genetic ancestry that are labeled with broad terms such as Asian, African, European is a little broad. So there's so many aspects of being European, but they're from the same geographical area. So we kind of put them in the same category. Asians, you got people from Malaysia, but they're Asians. They don't necessarily, do things that the Japanese do, but they're all Asians, And how do you identify New Zealand? What is that? Australia. What is Australia? Is it Asia? Is in the East? We'll get back to that. Okay. Then ethnicity, a shared background such as nationality or culture. Nationality, belonging to a nation. Birthplace, a hometown or a nation where you were born. Culture is identity based on shared experiences and traditions. This exists on many levels, such as national culture, subcultures, group cultures, or supercultures. The one that controls everything, like the Catholic culture. That's a super culture right there. It's got 2 billion followers. That's power. I mean, there's no country in the world, with 2 billion people in it. But a religion controls that many people. And those 2 billion people are not all European. And those 2 billion people, most of them were forcefully coerced by any means necessary into the Catholic Church, including wiping out generations, genocide of other cultures, Aboriginal cultures, the Africans in Australia, the Aboriginals, the Native Americans, so on and so forth. Evidence is there. I'm not making this stuff up. But it's just so that we have a better understanding of identity and how important it is, both for the individual and for the group, particularly people of African ancestry. Now, what we discuss here can be applied to any other ethnicity in terms of the way races are defined, Asians, Europeans, blah, blah, blah. They all do the same thing. They all can do the same thing. Community, identity based on a sense of place, such as your hometown or your neighborhood. Where you from? Oh, I'm from the Bronx. First, you're from New York. Or should I say on the macro level, you're from the state of New York. Then you break it down a little bit more. You're from New York City. Then you break it down from a little bit more. Now you're talking about boroughs. I'm from the Bronx. When you talk about neighborhood as part of your identity, that's what I'm talking about. Disability, a sense of solidarity or connection to the disability community. Now, disability, that's broad, man. But we could talk about disability for the individual. You're blind or you can't hear, you're mute. The government, if they have any soul, like in the United States where you have the 508 compliant, best practices, and you want to make sure the blind people and people that can't hear, deaf people can navigate the web. I'm a web developer myself, so I know. Okay. Social status. Elements of social status such as appearance, wealth, style, personal presence, youthfulness. You identify with those groups if you think that you fit in there. Class, socioeconomic, working class, middle class, upper class. You identify with all kinds of stuff. Remember, there's over 30 of different examples I could give you. Consumer culture. It is common for products and services to attempt to sell elements of its identity, such as social status or peak experiences. For example, an individual who views a collection of shoes as an element of their identity, all of a sudden, people know him as the guy who has, or the lady that got all these beautiful shoes, or the dude that, man, he wears these really nice hats, boleros, and all that kind of stuff, African hats, whatever. He's a guy like everybody. When you talk about Steve Harvey, they don't really talk about Steve Harvey as a funny guy. I mean, he's funny sometimes he's not. It's neither here or there for me. If you do a show and I find it funny, it's funny. If you do one that I don't find funny, it's not funny, and I'm not going to laugh at it. But we know Steve Harvey because of what? His suits. That's his identity. So when we talk about some of the best dressed entertainers, I bet you he'd be top 5, whether you like his style or not. I'm not particularly into it. I don't wear suits. I don't care. But for people that wear suits, for people that is important to, for people that care about these fashion trends of, European stylistics, fine. That's cool. For me, I don't care about a man with, who's got a nice suit on. It means nothing to me. I'm an African. I like my African outfits and stuff like that. Things that are African centered. That's my identity. And I don't deviate from it. I don't even have a suit. I don't own one. I don't own a tie. I try to find myself or put myself in positions where I don't need to put those things on to go anywhere. Most of the time, if I have to wear a suit, I don't go. If I go to a wedding, I'm wearing my African thing. Now, if you tell me it's all everybody got to have a black suit or something, well, if my wife, insists that I do it, fine. But me personally, I'll say, well, you know what? Nah, I ain't doing it. I'm not going to rent a suit, do anything. Don't make me your best man. I know we've been friends since we were 2 years old, but don't make me your best man because I don't care to wear that suit. It's not my thing. As an African, as a traditionalist, if there's a wedding, what's wrong with doing a wedding in your own African dresses? And why do I have to go to church for it? Why can't I just do an African wedding traditional, whether it's the way you do it in South Africa, the Zulus do it, or the way the Igbos do it, or Yorubas, or the Hausas, whoever. Just do it African. Yeah. I don't have to go through that. People tell me, oh, there's going to be a pink wedding. Everybody got to have a pink shirt and a pink that. And then in the end, we're all looking like Europeans in pink. None of us looking like black folks. And then they talk about the wedding. Oh, such a beautiful wedding they did. Everything all European. Nobody talked about anything African about the wedding. You see it on YouTube. Some of our ladies got eyelashes so long, man. When they bat their eyes, I think they're one of these Sesame Street characters, Snop Luggerfuggers, or whatever his name is, Snuffy or Fluffy. The what do you call those things? The mammoth elephant with the long tusk, with the big eyes and all that stuff, right? Then you got people that belong to the group of women that like, those lashes. They got groups on Facebook and on the internet, and they interact, and they share stories about their lashes and all that. And in the end, you're looking at you go, oh my God, there's nothing African about. Who are you identifying with? In the end, everybody sees us as zombies, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Politics, political views and affinity for a political party. Some nations are sharply divided along political lines, such as, that have become pervasive part of identity. For example, in the United States, part of the identity is I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican. On the macro level, I'm an American, whatever that means to you. Then from being an American, you're filling out an application form. Now you got to identify which race, what's your identity? What are you, black, white, green, yellow, or blue? You got to identify with that. So you're going from macro, and then you're going from micro till you get to the micro level as the individual. But you've passed from being an American citizen to being a Democrat or Republican, to being black, white, red, green, blue, orange, whatever, Asian, African, whatever you want to be. Then we filter down to I'm from Nebraska. Then I'm from Omaha. Then I'm from some neighborhood. Then my address is 227587 27. What kind of street name is that? That's the name of my street. So everything has withered down. So identity has levels to it. It's just not about you. And this show is really about us and how we identify and how we see ourselves in the world and how we think people see us as people of African ancestry. I could talk about lifestyle, identity, gender identity, masculine, female characteristics, sexual orientation, profession, engineer, artist, professor, teacher, hobbies, karate, skiing, skating, whatever, weightlifting, membership, what clubs you belong to, accomplishments, all the PhD holders, like OKDB. You have the floor now. Media, experiences, sports. I play basketball, I play football, I'm a football player, I'm a soccer player. We can identify ourselves all kinds of ways, but in the end, the macro level is not what's important. It's the micro. Because only when the macro is good can it make up the whole and build the whole and make the whole work. Culture is the backbone of a people. That is the macro level. All human systems are products of religion. I remember a speech that my father, may he rest in perfect peace and reincarnate greater still. He gave a speech in Michigan where he was talking about perils of nations and the interest of cultures when they are threatened by imperialism, and the idea or the understanding that the best defense against imperialism is one's cultural identity, religion. All human systems are product of religion, from your your economic systems to your social systems to technologies, whatever system you have, your judicial system, economics, political, they're all constructs from religion. Our constructs. God didn't write any holy book for anybody, whether you're chaste, Gaudian, Christian, Buddhist, Muslim, Zoroastrian, Shinto, Confucian, Taoist, Manichaeist, all kinds of religions in this world. When the interest of a people is threatened, they rally around their cultural expression, their primordial core, their religion. When the interest of the Japanese is threatened by imperialism or from the outside, it rallies around Shintoism. Their religion identifies the Japanese. When I say Shinto, you don't think about Chinese, you think about Japan. When I say Buddhist, the first thing you think about is China, even though Buddhism is not their cultural expression. It wasn't based off Chinese culture, it's based off Indian. Chinese spiritual culture is Taoism and Confucianism. And they rally around those when their interests is at stake. The Indians in India rally around Hinduism and Sikhism, their cultural expression. That's their defense against imperialism. That's how they protect themselves. India was colonized by the British, although they didn't experience chattel slavery like we did, but the British had their boots on their necks for quite a few years. And they only survived it because of their strong belief in their culture, their love for themselves. So did we. But the brutality that was meted upon the African, no other group of people can compare themselves to such brutality. Because let me tell you something about brutality, man. It ain't that somebody came in and just cut your head off. It ain't about that. That's a swift death. You're gone. It's not like somebody came and disemboweled you. I'm sorry for being so graphic, but that's only going to last for so long, and you're dead within a matter of seconds, tops a minute. You're gone. But when somebody, for centuries, cut your head off, tortures you, sodomizes you. Kunta Kinte is your black behind. You came in here as Kunta Kinte. You left as Toby. Roots. Go check the movie out. I have Africans that come in here and I ask them, what's your name, man? He said, oh, I'm Igbo. Where you from? I'm from this village. What's your name? My name is Monday. What? Now, how am I supposed to identify you beyond what I see? I can't, because everything about you is gone. I see color, but I don't see you, because I know that what I see is not original. It's broken. I can manipulate it. That's why there are more black folks in church on a Sunday morning than any other race in the world. 10 of the richest preachers in the world, 5 of them are from Nigeria. Charles Ugochukwu will tell you that. I'm sure he's listening to the show right now. He'll tell you that. The identity of the African now is that we go to church more than anybody else. Nobody identifies us by our traditions, except maybe a little bit of dancing here and there. But when you talk about what identifies the African, who created the narrative that all that identifies me as a black person is the color of my hair, my skin, the kinky nature of my hair, the dress, the music I play? Is that it? Is that it? Is that all I'm known for? Which, by the way, everybody else borrows, changes it up a little bit, and then claim that they came up with it. And we just sit there and just bob our head and go, yes, master. We do it in Africa. We do it here in the United States. We do it in Jamaica. We do it in Haiti. Haitians are killing each other, knowing what they went through, knowing what their history is, knowing how brave those that came before them, their ancestors were, to fight the French, defeat them before the United States helped the French by creating a blockade and making Haiti the first independent nation in the Western Hemisphere, simultaneously also becoming the poorest and the most destabilized still today. But yet, when we look at the Haitians, we think that his problem or her problem, their problem is different from the problem of the African in Ghana, or the African American, or the African in Britain. You think you're different because you're not identifying yourself from the micro level. And for us, the micro level for us is very visible. It is not language. Because we were disjointed and balkanized a long time ago. We ended up in the Americas, in the United States, in Brazil, in Argentina, in Cuba. We ended up in Britain, in Spain. We ended up in Asia. We ended up in Canada. George Washington owned slaves. We ended up here. So language, we became products of our master, quote, quote. We became products of the person that beat Toby into our brains and took Kinta Kinte away. I'm no longer UD on your, I'm a black man now. My name is Mike Jones. How does that identify me? If you didn't see my face, if I didn't speak any language, if there was nothing about me that you could identify me with, and you just saw my name, and my name is Mike Jones, how do you know I'm black, white, green, yellow, or blue? You know nothing about me. We cannot just all identify ourselves based on the identity that those people that validated our enslavement and colonization with their holy books. They know who they are. The conversation today is about us. It's about what do we identify with? And when we talk about identity, is it just about you and your so-called found freedom you think you've overcome? But nobody told me. And I didn't make that line up. The Jeffersons. For those that watched American comedy, George Jefferson's maid, Florence, said that. Her first job interview, she came and looked around the apartment and goes, "You live here?" George Jefferson said, "Yeah." She asked Mrs. Jefferson, "You live here?" Mrs. Jefferson said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, how come we overcame and nobody told me?" Because she couldn't believe that you got these two black folks living, moving on up, living up in a skyscraper in Manhattan. Deluxe apartment in the sky. She couldn't believe it. Because she has never seen one of us in that position. She just didn't even think it was possible. And that's what happens when they reorient you with somebody else's stuff. You forget about who you are. You forget about your how do you say it? Your contributions to civilized behavior. Your ancestors come from them. When you talk about the father of humanity, here you are as a black man. Now you're talking about the father of humanity is Abraham. Really, bro? Sister? Hello? Anybody there? Let me just think about that stuff. The first man, Adam. Well, guess how old Adam is? 7,000 years old. That's about how old the Jewish history is. And you and I both know that humanity is a lot older than that. We know. Not just from records, but science proves it through archaeology, dug up history. We know that. We walk around here with no identity. The Haitian got no identity because he's looking at his identity as a Haitian, but that's not what he is. That geography was created for him. The balkanization of black folks through slavery and colonization. It happened. Ghana, Nigeria, blah, 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 blah. You put people that never really shared the same, location, culture, geography, even though they're Africans, they got things that they have in common, culturally speaking, and all that. They were just from different tribes. They manage themselves that way. The narrative now is if you have small tribes, it's wrong. You got to have big. No, you don't. They defined us that way. We were not empire builders. We didn't run around building empires. We were not Genghis Khan. We're not the British or Spaniards. We're not Cortez. We're not in South America killing Aztecs and Mayans and Incas. We weren't running around. Before Columbus came here, we were trading with Native Americans. You had African from West Africa trading with Native Americans in the United States. We didn't know that before. We know that now. Thank God for the internet and the information that you could only glean from the library if there was one near you. Most people went through life without ever stepping foot in the library. And if they ever did, it's because they had the opportunity to go to school. If they didn't have the opportunity to go to school, they never got into a library. But today you got the internet. I could find whatever information I want to. I could travel all over the world without leaving my living room. It's called technology. So we're knowing things now. Information about us is coming out. First mathematical calculation ever recorded in human history, the La Bomba Bones, 35,000 years ago. If you didn't have a library card, that information never would have been available to you, and it would have been available to you only if you were curious enough to seek it out, because nobody was going to tell you that in school. They will tell you Columbus discovered America, but he never set foot here. They redefined everything. They changed history. They told me that, what's his name, discovered the Niger River. Nobody discovered the Niger River when there are people living there. You couldn't have discovered America if there were people living here already. You didn't discover nothing. You found them for your people. But discover, no, you didn't. And in your mind, you probably think you were the first that showed up there. You probably weren't the first that showed up there. You were just the first that survived. Because there are places in this world till today, 5 miles off the coast of India, you go over there today as a foreigner, either you're going in there to just go and shoot everybody and wipe them all out. But if you step up in there and come in there with your candy and something shiny and you want to kiss somebody on the cheeks, you're dead. They get rid of you. They don't want that infection from the outside. Neither does the Indian government. And some of you might know what I'm talking about. How do we identify? Because what we have to understand, and I'm just being very, very truthful. Here's what we have to understand. When those that wish you no good, when those that want to keep you throttled, when those that want to cancel you out, because there are people that want to cancel you out. There are people that want to go back in and enslave you, have you picking cotton all over the world. They've had the people in Burkina Faso picking cotton for a long time until they said, no, we're masters of our own destiny and we're going to run our own things. And we're willing to die. Everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody is willing to die. Well, we'll leave it up to the next generation and hopefully they'll be able to solve this problem. Folks, if you haven't left anything for the next generation to build on, they'll just be enslaved and colonized just like you are. Don't forget that their identity was given to them at home first by you that went to Sunday church every day, by you that went to the mosque. That constant sapping of their cultural identity came from you, the parent, the community. It came from the church. I've never been into a church or went to a church and seen somebody talking about anything African. They talk about Moses, Joshua, Ruth, Pharaoh. This God in the Bible that is always mad are those people that he created but chose not to choose him as his people, or chose not to choose them as his people, even though he created them. I guess he created them for sport so that his chosen people can use them as bait. Is that it? Whose narrative is that? Why do we talk about Noah's Ark without talking about Gilgamesh, without understanding the relationship between the two? Why do we call people pagans without understanding what the word pagan means and where it comes from? The word pagan comes from paganus. It's a Latin word that means citizen of Rome or a country dweller, who, by the way, were less tolerant of the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church hated them. But in order to bring them into the fold of the Catholic Church, they adopted a lot of pagan rites and culture into the Catholic Church. Hated them so much that being a pagan, being a Roman became a sin. And the word pagan was born to mean a non-believer. But that's not what it means. I'm a black man. I'm not a pagan because I've never been a citizen of Rome. Neither were my forefathers. Human civilization and migration came from South Central Africa going all the way up. It didn't come from Rome down. It came from us up there. That's how it works. But how do we identify with ourselves, people? I'm an African. I'm a Christian. I'm a Muslim. I'm a that. I'm a this. And the only thing you talk about when it comes to you is I'm African. That's if you don't think your forefathers or your ancestors are Cherokee Indians. There's a whole lot of African Americans that think that they're not African, that they came from the Cherokee tribe. They don't understand that if they had any semblance of Cherokee in them, it's not in the blood. It's just in politics and culture and economics. When the United States government forced the Cherokee tribe that owned African slaves to grant them citizenship in their tribe. So they became Cherokee Indians. There is no DNA of any born Cherokee Indian that is black, period. Doesn't exist. You think I'm kidding? Go check it out for yourself. The internet is a big, 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 big hub of information. What we don't understand is that when those that wish us no good see us, they don't ask me if I'm Nigerian. They don't care if I'm Igbo tribe or Yoruba. They don't care if I'm Ghanaian. They don't care if I'm Jamaican, Barbados, Haitian, African American, British, Black, Chinese. They don't give, or you know what? They just see this. Your blackness makes you the N word, period, in their eyes. That's it. That is the first thing we have to understand about our identity. And perhaps with that kind of understanding, it is possible that we could start dealing with one of our biggest issues as people of African ancestry, which is unity. How do we see ourselves as one? How do we identify as one? How do we see our suffering, the racism? How do we see the colonial mentality and the slave mentality as a Black problem, an African problem? There's a Jamaican reggae artist. His name is Peter Tosh. He made a song, and the song goes like this. No matter where you come from, as long as you're a Black man, you're an African. Whether you come from China, whether you come from Senegal, whether you come from America, whether you come from Jamaica, you're an African. Can we at least understand that and identify with that? Can we start there? So that we can start dealing with the problem of umoja, unity. In my language, idinotu. I mean, there are people in Africa talking about United Nations of Africa. I'm down with that. One continent, one country, one government, one military, one economic system backed by our minerals, gold, diamond, uranium, all the good stuff that the rest of the world can't survive without. We have it all. There's no reason why any African country should be poor. They just discovered, I think it's in Uganda, they just discovered 12 trillion. Y'all didn't hear me right. $12 trillion worth of gold. I mean, that practically, for its population, it practically makes it the richest country in the world. I mean, how many countries got 12 billion? I mean, $12 trillion. I bet you a whole lot of countries in Africa have that. Once they're able to control their own resources and find their own riches themselves and sell it to the world. And quit electing compromised leaders that wish their people no harm, are no good, leaders with no love in their hearts. They're all over African communities, all over the world. Leadership can be micro, it can be macro. I mean, let's start from top, bottom, top. Any way you want to roll with it. Corruption is everywhere. And most of that corruption serves Western interests. It don't serve us. How do you identify when you got this hue? Is it enough to be Jamaican? Is it enough to be Igbo, Nigerian, Yoruba, Ghanaian, Kenyan, African American? Is that it? Is that where it stops for you? Because, we sit over here and we whine and complain about what the world is doing and blah, 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 blah. Let me tell you, for those of you that don't think we fought them. They just had the power of the gun. One-on-one, they were no match. It was just the power. If it was sword play against sword play, they were done. Population-wise, we had more people in Africa than they did in Europe. You come to Europe with 70,000 men, I will marshal out 300,000 warriors. And the difference between your 70,000 and the 300,000 warriors is that you came there with a gun. You didn't come to Africa, let's say, in 1006 AD, did you? Because we were only dealing with swords. The Romans didn't show up there in Kenya or meet the Zulus back then. They didn't come down that far. They had to deal with Egypt, and most importantly, they had to deal with Hamilcar Kabaka, Hannibal. So they didn't have that kind of ambition. But I can guarantee you, if they marched that Roman army into the jungle, they would be disappeared if all they came with was the sword and some horses. We had steel too. We had metal. We had better technology than they did back then. Check it out. It's documented. All the narratives you see in movie with the black people with the big lips and the bone go through the nose and the dancing and the thing, the human sacrifice, you see it in Bugs Bunny shows and all. They infuse all this racist stereotype crap that they made up themselves. Make you think that Tarzan is the king of the jungle, swinging from tree to tree, talks to the animals, like Muhammad Ali said. Those people that live there can't speak to no gorillas. But this white dude, and for them to justify it, they have to tell us that gorillas killed their mom and dad and took the baby and raised it like their own. The white baby drank gorilla breast milk and became a gorilla and learned how to swing from trees to trees. Well, let me ask you all something. How many gorillas you know swinging from trees? Gorillas don't spend too much time on trees, man. They spend on the ground. I mean, monkeys and, baboons may swing from trees to trees up and down the whole place. Gorillas are huge. They're heavy. Don't spend a whole lot of time doing stuff like that. But the question is identity. How do you identify? Are you embracing the same cultural belief system? Do we have the same cognitive abilities, mental health, social connections? I mean, that's the benefit of cultural identity. It's embracing our cultural identity. It benefits when you embrace your cultural identity. It benefits your cognitive abilities, your mental health, your social connections. We're connected. Jamaicans are connected to African Americans, who are connected to Africans in the mainland, connected to Africans in Europe, connected to Africans in Asia. We're connected. The power grid is Africa. But we're connected, like the Jews are connected all over the world, running this place into the ground. They're connected. They're evil. The evil being meted out on people in Gaza was universally approved. If nobody saw the evil going on in Gaza, you think there'll be a conversation in the press that you and I will know what's going on? There were lots of things that happened in World War II that we don't know about. Trust me, the Allies committed so many atrocities. I mean, they didn't have a concentration camp making experiments with Jews, but they experimented with black folks over here at Tuskegee Institute and everything else they could think of. Performing surgery on women, black women, without anesthetics. It happened. Can we at least agree that we shared the same kind of suffering? That not only did the Africans that came to the Americas get treated badly, but the Africans that were left in Africa, that were colonized by Portugal, by Spain, by Britain, by France, by Belgium, and everybody else that could get their hands on Africa after the Berlin Conference. People were shot, lynched, killed for not meeting quotas in Congo. Over 20 million Congolese were massacred by Leopold. And yet you tell me that Hitler was the most evil man in history? Really? The way you talk about Hitler, what about Genghis Khan? And what about his evil? Only difference is Genghis Khan just, if he didn't do what he wanted, he just wiped everybody out. There was no room for compromise. Surrender or die. That was it. You don't want to surrender, you want to fight, you're dead. Boom. He had the army and the tactics to do it, and he did it, and with a lot of brutality. But no more brutal than the colonial masters, no more brutal than those that enslaved Africans. And we got people here competing for a Nobel Peace Prize of being brutal. What are you identifying with? I'm asking the question. Who are we? What am I? How do I identify? Do I see myself different from any other Black community that I know in my heart goes through the same prejudice, whether they are rich Black folks or poor Black folks? It don't matter. Everybody gets it the same. A lot of rich black folks got rich because they made the white person richer, like basketball players. The team owners get rich. With the television contracts and everything else, they can afford to pay Steph Curry $400 million contract for 4 or 5 years or whatever it is he had. Guys making 55 million. Jalen Brown, I think in Boston, making like 55 million a year. Only won one championship, but he generated revenue for the team, increased the team value in the marketplace. If the team was worth 2 billion, now it's worth about 4 billion because they won a championship. So they could afford to pay him $55 million a year. Then we think, oh, we got it made. Jalen Brown making 55, or LeBron James is a billionaire. Michael Jordan's got Nike. We act like he came up with Nike. We act like he ain't making Nike so rich that, yeah, the Nike shoes can afford to go up and they do whatever he wants. They're already on Shadow Sandals now. Nike is too. Oh, we're going to build you up, give you all that millions because we know you're going to make some money for us. You know what I'm saying? Like the Nigerian guy that developed the map thing, Google thing, and then they paid him like $1 billion, made him a billionaire. Igbo guy, Nigerian guy. He became rich, became a billionaire. And he's investing in tech and all that. You know, God bless him, man. Get it where you can, because he ain't just in the background enjoying the billions he got. He's investing it and doing some great things for the world. He's a Nigerian American. He's right here. Kudos. And you can identify him with some of these geniuses. How do you identify him? You can identify him with the Mark Zuckerbergs, the billionaire starters, the tech geniuses that became billionaires, the Oracle guys, the Jeff Bezos. These people, he's joined them. He's identified as a billionaire. That's he's in the billionaire club. And now he could say, hey, you know what? I choose just to belong to that club. I don't care about being black or white because, you know, those people are buttering my biscuits. You know what I'm saying? But he can't, because in the end, since it's in the spotlight, they're going to say the Nigerian American. He gets credit for being black, even though Nigerian is a construct of the British. But let's just accept that as our identity for teaching's sake, for the show, for purposes of the show. Let's just say that. But the question again is, how do you identify? Why do we think that our identity is different from one another? Why do we think that we don't face the same issues? Do we have any understanding that our greatest tool against imperialism is our cultural awareness, our core, our identity? That's your best defense against it. The quickest way to get to you is through your own mind. And your conqueror understands that. Because they created you the way they wanted you to react to life and your condition and identify you as stupid. So they come at you with the Bible and everything else they could come at you to make you feel inferior, to let you know, hey, you can't even have a good economy unless we let you have it. We will kill all your leaders. And there's a list of it. I mean, where do I start? They jailed Nelson Mandela for 30 years, damn near 30 years. For saying I am what I am by the grace of the Almighty God, and if you don't like it, let the door hit you, you know what? You don't need my permission to be European. Why I need your permission to be black? Why does that standard only apply to me? Why does my God have to look like your God? Why does my ancestors have to be your ancestors? Why does Abraham have to be the father of humanity? Why do I have to believe that the Jews were interred in Egypt when there's no document saying that they ever were there? No hieroglyphics. I mean, wouldn't the Egyptians know if there were Jews there? They would know. How do we look at ourselves and say, you know what, I want to identify as an African because all my brothers and sisters that share the same blood, makeup, ethnicity with me face the same challenges. Because the British will hate your black behind as much as the American will. The Brazilian will hate your behind as much as the French will. The German will hate your behind as much as the Canadian will. The Japanese will hate you as much as the Chinese. Nobody likes you. So part of our identity is the most disjointed group of people, the most balkanized group of people. Part of the identity that has been given to us, we are the most zombified, suffering from Stockholm syndrome, defending a kidnapper just because they ordered the police to bring in 4 large pizzas to feed their hostages. And because they fed their hostages, the hostages gave them good props when they were finally freed and said, yeah, they may have kidnapped us, but they gave us pizza. So they must be good people. You know what I'm saying? That's how we think. Only way for your sins to be forgiven is if you accept them or accept him as your Lord and Savior. And him is black or white or Chinese. It's them. Same people that brought it to your shores, enslaved you, beat Kunta Kinte out of you, and then called you Toby. Then you woke up in here, now your name is Marcus Eden, Michael Morant, Whoopi Goldberg. I like Whoopi, by the way, you know. Name stuck. I mean, she can go change it to some Igbo name or Togolese name. I think she's somewhere from around there. That's what her ancestry says. She's not known for that. She's been Whoopi Goldberg all her life. But I'm just using that as an example of how you look at a black person, or should I say, you see a portfolio on a black person, there's no picture, there's no mention of race or anything like that. None of that stuff. Just the name. And you're confused. You can't tell who it is. Because the name does not identify a black person. So you don't know that this person is probably from my tribe. And his name is Michael Morris. Or better yet, his first name is Morris and his last name is African. Michael Chukwu. Somehow he kept that last name because he gave him some identity, at least to know where he come from. But that first one, Michael, gives him his European flex. So he'll tell you, yeah, I like African stuff. Hey, my last name is Okechukwu. Yeah, my first name is Morris. You know, I'm a little European too. I just want you to know that. You understand what I'm saying? So you beat your chest, you brag, put your eyelashes, your nails, you paint yourself looking like this freak, whatever it is you're doing. But any mention of your Africanness, all of a sudden you don't want to identify with it that much. Why? Because your master told you, you people are evil. Your culture is inferior. You contributed nothing. You're stupid. Your ancestors were weak. If they were strong, we wouldn't have enslaved you. If they were strong, we wouldn't have colonized you. They identified you as stupid, and you said, yes, master, I'm stupid. That's my new identity. The most easily influenced person in the world. Particularly our females, and then the weakness of our men to step up to the podium or the mantle, take control. Supposed to lead the family. You and your spouse together. Half of y'all let them do it. While the men over there drinking beer, chasing after the dollar, forgetting their responsibility as men. Your number one goal is to protect. And to do it, we have to be united. We have to be united. We have to re-identify. And part of that identity is figuring out a charter that says that we all are going through it. Whether you're Jamaican, Nigerian, South African, it doesn't really matter. We are going through it. No matter where you come from, if you're black, they're coming after you. They come after you with inoculations. They want to sterilize your kids. I don't know if it's Mozambique, Angola, one of the Southern African countries turned Bill Gates Foundation down for wanting to inject or inoculate women to help the people of Namibia, I think it's Namibia or whatever, to control, their population and make sure that, they're not overpopulated, blah, 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 blah. No conscience. They said, no, we'll control our own population when we see a need. Why would you want to control the population? Why would you sell me this idea that we're too populated? So because you may be too populated. Population may be a problem for you economically because it's too many mouths to feed now, and you don't want to share some of these resources on this earth because you know that it's being depleted. So you figured, I'm going to stunt the growth of other countries by making sure that they don't produce enough people. You understand what I'm saying? And it becomes a conversation. And then they come in there with all these NGOs and all these people, oh, we're helping the homeless, we're helping the hungry, we're giving them shot, we're helping them with medicine. Blah, blah, blah. Guess what? Has there ever been a time when the Red Cross or anybody else showed up anywhere and the problem was solved? And why does the charity have to be foreign? Why can't we have African charities dealing with African issues? Why couldn't charities in Haiti that are Haitian-based, founded by Haitians, like one of their musicians, Jean-Paul something, I can't remember his name. And they give him such a bad press right here in the United States and abroad that he was only trying to get money so that he could put it in his pocket. He's already a millionaire, successful musician. He didn't need that. Here comes the Red Cross. They raised like $2 billion, man, for Haiti. Guess how much Haiti got? Like $1,200. That's it. Same thing that was going on with Burkina Faso and the French. You have mineral that cost about $200 an ounce. How much you giving the Haitians? You sell it for $200. I mean, the Burkina Faso. How much you giving them? You're giving it like 10, 20 bucks out of the 200, and you're keeping everything, and the mineral comes from them. And you're supposed to sit there and take that abuse and then identify as the most backward people in the world, as the most corrupt people in the world, like the interview between Louis Farrakhan and Mike Wallace of 60 Minutes. Mike Wallace is trying to convince Louis Farrakhan that Nigeria is the most corrupt country that he has ever been in. Louis Farrakhan told him, wait just a minute, Mr. Wallace. That is unfair. So what? That country is only 35 years old. We, as people of African ancestry, African Americans and otherwise, we have a responsibility to go and help those people to find themselves. We understand what they went through. They went through civil wars. They went through colonization. The country is only 35 years old. Look at this country is more than 200 years old. Has Nigeria dropped 2 atomic bombs on anybody? They dropped one on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Nigeria didn't do it. Which nation in the world can come around and say that Africans enslaved them and did this and did that to them? Nobody. We know for a fact that we showed the European how to take a bath. They get their spices and all that from foreign lands, like India, Africa, and China. There was nothing in Europe. They needed everybody else to survive. And to do it, they had to define and redefine you. You know, this thing about niggers, excuse the expression, and black and white and all that, it's not like something that was happening during the Roman Empire. These things are all recent. One was in the 17th century, that's it. Nobody was talking about black or white in 1301. Back then, Europeans were killing each other. They were slaughtering and murdering each other. They were creating alliances through marriages and through religious and Catholic affiliations, and who is Anglican Church, who was not. The King James Version was written because a Catholic king wanted divorce from his wife, King Henry VIII. They refused. The church refused to grant him divorce, said it was illegal. He took himself off the church, isolated himself from the Church of England. And his, what do you call it? Oh boy. You know, his grandchildren or whatever, King James, wrote that Bible. And by the way, King James was gay. Nobody tells you that stuff, but go check it out. The gay king who wrote the Bible. Yeah, it's true. He even professed his love for one of his lovers on paper. I'm not making this stuff up. It's just the way it is. But they've redefined us and turned us into these people that don't even know that they believed in God before the Europeans showed up. I mean, we were saying names like Chidiebere, God is merciful. We were giving it to our kids before the European and the Arab came to our shores with the Bible and Quran in tow. Chidima, God is good. These names existed in our culture before the European came. They gave us nothing. We already had a black man who flew in a balloon before the Wright brothers. It's true. Check it out. You got the internet. Go do your research. Quit looking at me like I'm giving you a story. Check it out. There's a lot of discoveries. LASIK eye surgery. Who's talking about that? Unless you're black, I bet you 99.9999% of white folks all over the world. Ask them who invented LASIK eye surgery. Without them having to go do the research, they will tell you a white person did it. But it's a black woman. Until Steven Spielberg made the movie, something colors. Can't remember what it is. But until he made that movie, how many people knew that if it wasn't for really 5 black women, and more than 5 black women actually, America would never have made it successfully to the moon and back. But somebody told our story. We didn't tell our story yet. We were identified as people that contributed nothing to civilized behavior. But yet I'm telling you, we were building cars by 1910 before Henry Ford. Henry Ford did not build cars. He just built them. He made it cheaper. He made it more accessible. Anybody could buy a car. I mean, the mafia, most of their drive-by shooting in the car till today. I mean, Machine Gun Kelly, yeah. Read the history. It's true. They tell you have no power. You say, yeah, you identify yourself as stupid, as somebody that has no beginning, has no ending. You just, boom. You came into existence because the European wished you into existence to colonize and enslave your behind. And you're playing that role. You may not know it. We're still picking cotton. You may not be in the fields with the thorns of the cotton plant making your fingers bleed. But we're still picking cotton all over Africa. You got more churches and mosques in Africa than you do traditional spiritual institutions. In most of Africa, it does not exist as a government-sponsored or authorized entity whose responsibility is protection of its culture, either local, micro, or macro culture. They re-identify us as people that have no calling, that contributed nothing. We knew nothing about math. Most white people think Egyptians are white people. No Nubian connection whatsoever. Nobody told them that when Zeus had a problem that he couldn't resolve in Mount Olympus, he came down to Africa, to Ethiopia, to dine with the Ethiops, to gain wisdom and knowledge, to go back into Mount Olympus and rule. Yeah, it's in Greek mythology. I'm not making this stuff up. Check it out. Most of us, we don't check nothing out. We're not curious enough. We're so dumbed down, we're not curious about anything. We can't even look at our experiences in the world the way it is right now, what it is that we're going through as a people, collectively, individually, how the world sees us. We can't even see all that stuff and still be curious enough to say why. I need to find out why. They got their foot on your throat. You don't even ask, why you got your foot on my throat? When they put the foot on your throat, you ask them, what can I do for you so that you could get your foot off my throat? How many times can I call you master? What do you need? Want me to change my name? Want me to change my religion, my culture, my clothing? You want me to bleach my skin? You want me to become fair-skinned, even though I'm black? You want me to bleach my skin, then go to the plastic surgeon and get my nose straight, thin out my lips? What you want me to do? How European can I get so that you could take your foot off my throat? How many of my brothers and sisters can I sell out? How many African presidents will stagnate African countries that were balkanized by the European? How many of us will keep us from developing? How many of them will continue to be corrupt? How many of them will continue to leave us without infrastructure, strong educational, legal, cultural, economic institutions that don't think of the next generation, have no concept or any idea that what we bring to the table is what's going to build the next generation and their worldview, and giving them something to be able to fight something that seems to be perpetual in its nature. Infinite racism that only began in the 17th century. Yes, in Virginia, here in the United States. In Virginia, it was the governor there that started the black and white thing over there. In Virginia, here in the United States, pitting poor white folks against black folks, blaming black folks for taking resources from white folks. So to keep the poor white folks for killing the rich white folks, they made the white poor person the victim of the mooching black person who they themselves came to Africa and brought over here on their own decision that they made themselves to go and enslave people. They turn around to tell their people the reason why you're poor is because there's people that we went and brought in and enslaved. Their reason for why blank, blank, blank. So all of a sudden, the lousiest, lowly white person now has been built to think that he's better than the smartest black person. And that's what's going on in the world today. You could see smart guys, smart minds like, Neil deGrasse Tyson or some Philip Emeagwali of Nigeria or something. The Vivian Bath and all that. And the guy in the mountains of Kentucky, drinking some kind of moonshine that he made himself, is thinking that he's more superior than Vivian Vance that did the first open heart surgery, taught a doctor through open heart surgery at Johns Hopkins University, and he didn't have a college education. The lowest white person in Europe thinks that he's smarter than Benjamin Banneker. All that any of these European warriors is better than a Nelson Mandela that was willing to go to jail. A Martin Luther King that took a bullet was willing, knew it was coming. The Stephen Bikers that knew it was coming. The Thomas Sankarans that knew it was coming. The Marcus Garveys that knew it was coming. The Malcolm X's that knew it was coming. The Heinke Onyonhas that knew it was coming, but nobody was able to touch him. He died of natural causes. Bless his heart. May he reincarnate greater still. It's still shocking to me that Heinke Onyonha made it to the age of 80 and became an ancestor, and nobody could touch him. Because he pulled out some strings, man. He had a lot of people upset. He had the Vatican upset. Up until 2012, I used to go to the Vatican website. They had my dad's name in there as the guy they need to watch out in Africa who is against the church. It was in there. And if you look hard enough, you could still find it. I saved the copy for myself. They talked about guardianism as a new religious movement in Nigeria that must be watched. We ended up in who of world religions, is there. Where Chiism, Godianism is in the encyclopedia of world religions. All because somebody identified himself as an African and said, I am what I am by the grace of God. And if you don't like it, oh well. But I want to make sure that the people that come after me see me. I always tell people, and I wish my dad every time during his birthday, I always say something since he passed. My dad never told me how to become a man. He just lived and let me watch him do it. Most of my worldview is because I watched my dad. My dad will fire every chauffeur that my mama will hire. And I was the only one that drove my dad for 3 years before I came to the United States in 1980. I drove him around all over Nigeria. I saw with my eyes what it took to be great like he was. To be made a permanent member of the United Nations, the only black man from Africa to represent something original from Africa, and that's Godianism, Chiism. He did that. Member of the World Conference of Religion and Peace in Kyoto, Japan, and also at the Catholic University of Louvain in Belgium. Ahai Keokonyo did that. He used to visit with the Dalai Lama. Yeah. The Archbishop of Canterbury. They're all his friends. Pope John Paul II. Yeah. You knew all these people on first name basis. That's greatness. I addressed the General Assembly on World Disarmament, United Nations, and redefined civilization. Not to mean technological know-how and economic opulence alone, but the ability for you as a human being, as a spiritual person, to defend the right of another to exist. That's civilized behavior. When people tell you act civilized, they're not telling you to go drop an atomic bomb. They're telling you to be nice. That's our nature. That's our spirituality. That's who and what we are, united as one. That's what we should aspire to be. Listen, our problem as people of African ancestry is global. We are going through the same thing. Jamaican, Haitian, Nigerian, South African, Mandelas, it doesn't matter. They wiped out the black population of Korean black people with eyes just like Koreans, but their skin was like mine, but they had the vision just like that. The black Mongolians. Up until 1920 something. See, in 1920 something, people didn't have a lot of information globally. You understand what I'm saying? Not in Africa, nowhere. Not even in Europe. I mean, in the 20s, going to school and going to college was a privilege. And even earlier than that, it was different. You grew up in a farm, you learned how to farm. If you had some society, you know, where they trained you to be a man and learn a trade like we did, going through the rites of passage and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you did that. We have to come together as one. That's the only identity. I know today's topic is about identity, just to make you understand what identity means. And then from there, you know, we go into what we need to do, what kind of identity that we should be embracing, thinking about, the way our mind should be functioning when we're looking at ourselves and when we're dealing with this idea of identity. Because you got to understand, identity, embracing your cultural identity benefits your cognitive abilities. Cognitive. Your mental health. But we're unhealthy people. Mentally, oh my God, confusion is permanent almost. Seems like it. And social connections. I don't want Jamaica to be so far away from me in Nairobi, Kenya. I don't know the United States, the African Americans to be far away from me in Nigeria. And talking about identity, because it's important that we see ourselves as having the same struggles. And it's also important that we understand our struggles in the different areas that we are. We have some struggles that are like, you know, sorry, I cleaned my lens with this paper, so I rolled it up as I'm talking. But anyway, it's beyond that. We need to kind of like really see ourselves as, how do I say, ask the question, how can we bridge this gap? How can we come together as one? What are the things, some of the things that we need to practice that can bring us together? You know, you can unite people with the color of their skin. You know, the Europeans, you know, they're all same light skin, but they speak Dutch, British, Belgian, you know, whatever, Spanish, Portuguese. The Europeans, the white folks, at least that's how they identify. See, before they identified all these people, nobody looked at anybody as white. Well, just where you come from is where you came from. That's it. They redefined everything. But we suffer the same issues. We need to really start looking at ourselves from that perspective. That's the only way. And then we need to also understand the role that cultural identity plays in the upward mobility of the people. We have to understand that all human systems are products of religion. We have to understand that your best defense against imperialism is your cultural, your primordial core, your cultural religion, your traditional religion, whatever it is you want to call it. That which identifies you spiritually, religiously, as a people, because it's about national consciousness. It's not about your individualism. You know, Pan-Africanism is about collective economics, collective unity, togetherness, one with nature. How can we manage nature to serve us so we can serve it? We have to serve nature for nature to serve us. If we don't serve nature, how do we serve nature? We take care of it. We take care of land. We don't abuse it. We don't go drilling oil everywhere, and land that could have been good for agriculture or waters like in Nigeria in the Delta that sustain the whole economy based on fishing is no longer existent. Doesn't exist. It's been polluted by oil and everything. So we have that responsibility. Take care of the environment takes care of you. That's Pan-African thinking. We have to really understand that and start seeing it and start living it. And ask ourselves the question, do we really want to overcome? What does it mean to overcome? Can you overcome without a cohesive identity as a people? I mean, could the so-called Jews made it this far if they didn't have global unity? You think they're over there because Europe loved the Jews and that's why they gave them Palestine. No, they gave them Palestine because they needed to get rid of them. Remember, it was the Jews that were being killed by the Nazis. Europeans were killing them. And before then, they were already under the gun by Europeans. And the people that protected the Jews from the Europeans were the Arabs. Check it out, it's history. You got internet now. You don't have to buy a library card and go to the library. You can just check it out on your own, on your cell phone, as we speak. You can watch this show and still browse the internet. Go check it out. We have to come together as one and have a common identity. How do you bring a people together? You can bring it together with I showed you 30 reasons, 30 different identities to address, right? But I'm not talking about just towns, I'm talking about a people with the same history. The history of the Jamaican is the history of the African that ended up in Argentina. They all came on that boat. The ones that ended up, there were about 12 to 14 million Africans that ended up in the Americas, but only about 490,000 came to the United States itself. That's just about how much. No more than 500,000 that came here in the United States. The rest of the other 12 to 14 million went to South America, Brazil, Argentina, Chile, the Bahamas, all those places. Jamaica, Haiti, all that. The islands. That's where they went. And don't forget that even though they went to Haiti, they came to the United States, they went to the Bahamas, they went to Jamaica, blah, 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 blah. They were all Africans. Don't forget that. So while you're claiming I'm Jamaican and this, forget how they ended up there. They weren't Cherokee Indians. They weren't Aztecs or Mayans or Incas. Even though you had black Aztecs, Mayans, and Incas, but you get my drift, you get my meaning. We ain't that stupid. Only smart people listen to this show. Just the fact that you're listening to this show says that you're curious enough. And that curiosity makes you smart in my book. You're not here by accident. You're here to learn something. We're not here to apologize. Either you're down with it or you're not. No sugarcoating. We're not sugarcoating anything in Burkina Faso. We're dealing with it, telling it like it is. We're getting into it. And that's what we do here. Cheers and live. We get into it. We don't make no apologies. We're an equal offender abuser. You understand what I mean by that? If you're offending and getting in the way of human unity, African unity, peace in this world, peace in our African community, peace in our schools, our families, our streets, our communities all over the world. Yeah, somebody got to say something about it. Good cannot always just sit by and let evil rule. Even if good wins at the end, which I hate that philosophy, and the reason why I hate that philosophy is simple. It always seems that before good can heal, evil has already taken a whole lot of people before we stop it. But we're in a position now where we could change things personally, for ourselves, by looking for a common identity and de-balkanize African people all over the world. This fragmentation, either a common religion, a common calendar, common race, spiritually, whatever. Either one of those things. It's almost impossible to do all of them, but the Jews seem to have managed to, even though they're now kind of having issues at breaking up. But one thing we can do is understand that when our interest is at stake and we need to defend ourselves against imperialism, it's always good to identify yourself first as an African, no matter where you are. And secondly, as a chaste. Remember, chiism is expression of African primordial belief systems. It's not relegated to a specific worldview. Because one thing you got to understand about African spiritually, it's almost identical. Only difference is a little bit of how it's expressed and the changing of names. The God is the same as Chineke, is the same as Oladumare, Ubangiji, Uvuzulele, Nkulunkulu, Jiami, God of many names. But I could at least try to call it God in our African universe. While when we go back to our prospective communities, we could do our thing, but we need an umbrella to unify us so that we can identify under a common spiritual philosophy of chiism, which encompasses the Organization of Traditional Religions of Africa. You understand? All right? We can do it. We owe it to ourselves. The Jamaican owes it to the Barbados guy, who owes it to the African Americans, who owes it to the Nigerian, owes it to the Ghanaian, to the South African, to the African in Britain, in Asia, in South America. We owe it to one of our, to all of us, to ourselves, and our children, and the next generation, to find a way to come together under a common spiritual expression, because it is the only way to protect yourself against imperialism, stop the balkanization of African people, bring us together so that, like a mighty blow, or should I say, like a fist, the Jamaican, the African in the mainland, those in Europe, in South Africa, all over the world, can come together so that we could strike a mighty blow, because unity is the only way to go. And I have come to the end of the show, and I hope that I have not agitated you guys so much. We'll be back in 2 weeks again. Okay, Dibia, the lady herself is a little bit under the weather and couldn't join us today. Excuse me. Dibia Chiedozie in Nigeria having some technological issues, so he couldn't make the show. But I'm here, yours truly, to serve you. Be of one mind, one thought, one goal: the unification of people of African ancestry. See you next week. God bless. Yagazie, everyone.